Hello, this is Alan Wheeler on my channel where I talk about spirituality and or tarot. And today the topic is the big picture of the Thoth Tarot's Tree of Life. And I'm working from various sources that I found. And I think sometimes it's easy to get lost in the minutia. There's so many correspondences and way the cards are connected, the pathways, and I want to pause and just think about the big picture of this tree of life. And one way to look at it is that this is a widespread myth, the tree of life or the world tree. It's an archetype, and so as not to lose the big picture and all the details, um, I'm liking right now to pause and think about the world trees from the different cultures. So in the Celtic mythos, the world tree, the branches go to the world above, the trunk is the mortal world, and the roots go to the other world of the Fae, and so on. In the Norse mythology, we're familiar with Yggdrasil, and so it connects the worlds, the 9 realms. So Asgard is in the realm above, Midgard, and then the underworld is connected by the 3 roots of the tree and the 3 wells, rather, below. But we have different versions of the world tree or the tree of life in Africa, India, China, in many cultures. And it always seems to be represent the connection of the cosmos or a source of eternal life, a sacred space like the axis mundi, the center of the world, and having similar functions. Now, another way, one way to look at it is this tree that connects the cosmos. Sometimes it represents the human form as well. So here is the Kabbalistic tree of life kind of superimposed in my bad drawing here on the human form. But if you think of the chakra system from India, it's not a perfect one-to-one correspondence, but it helps you conceptualize maybe. So the Kether in the tree of life, it does correspond to the crown here, and maybe the foundation here, and the material 10 of the tree of life might kind of correspond to the root chakra. They both have at the heart, of course, the heart chakra, and then that Sephiroth 6 in the tree of life. So in the tree of life now, there's the 3 above the abyss would represent this higher part in the human form, and then the 2 arms, the 2 legs, and then those that are in the center of the tree of life. And so that's another way to look at that. So this idea that above the abyss, there's this eternal, transcendent place from which emanations come down until we form the material realm. So this is again in Jewish mysticism, in the Western esoteric traditions, and it kind of explains how creation, basically, how ex nihilo, how something comes from nothing through these emanations. Now, sometimes the tree of life is drawn with concentric circles. So here's the earthly realm, 10 in the middle, and sometimes it's drawn in this form, similar to the way the planetary spheres might be drawn. So here's Earth, and then moving outward, the Moon, Mercury, Venus, the Sun, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and the constellations. In that old Greek way of looking at how the planets moved, each in their sphere. And so that's another way that it can be mapped out, the tree of life. Now, sometimes these complex systems can seem like a force fit, at least to me. So when the Golden Dawn or the Thoth system, for example, takes the tarot and then forces in the Hebrew letters and the astrological correspondences and then the Sephiroth all fitting together, it seems a little forced at times. And I'm reminded of, in fantasy stories like Lord of the Rings, sometimes you have hard magic systems and sometimes soft magic systems. So in something like Lord of the Rings, the magic isn't always explained. It's somewhat mysterious. It doesn't work every time the same way. However, in some modern stories and video games, for example, there's almost a scientific working. And so there's always this cause and effect. It's always consistent. If you do these two things, then the same result comes. And so I lean a little bit more to the soft side when looking at these maps. And again, I'm reminded of the NLP idea, neuro-linguistic programming idea, that the map is not the territory, it's just a tool. And so because it's a mysterious territory, the psychological, the spiritual, I'm hesitant to be too force-fitting and take too hard a stance as for myself. But I do appreciate, in that mystery and in that ambiguity, I do appreciate the ideas, as above, so below, as within, so without. The ethos that everything is connected, or the mythos that there's something more, something transcendent. I'm just hesitant at very intricate attempts to diagram the alchemy of that exactly. I'm not comfortable with making a periodic chart of the elements in some of the ways that some of the Western traditions chart them out. But that's just me. I do appreciate the idea as a kind of a food for thought or thought experiment, that there's looking at the source or the self at center, coming outward, that identity, or looking at the root and the fruit, or the sowing and reaping from source, or those emanations, or the idea of a cosmos in principle. So that's some food for thought, and that's the big picture of the Thoth Tarot's Tree of Life. And I think it's helpful to keep that in mind, that when it's useful, for example, to think of the High Priestess and how it connects the one from the crown to the heart at the 6. That's the pathway on the Tree of Life, whether that's in the cosmos or in the human form, where that's helpful to see that as a connection that might apply to a reading or to a meditation. So perhaps it can be helpful in that way. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe and like so this video can get out through the algorithm to others who might be interested. And as always, I hope you find connection with people in your life, with online community, and on your spiritual path, whatever that may be. Take care.